Thanks for calling Fountain Square Properties. This is Arlena.
My wife and I had received your email regarding your property you have for rent in Fountain Square. I was just wondering about why the email restricted certain ages and income. Does that disqualify disabled people?
Okay. Your income.
Well, I mean, my wife works part-time. I'm disabled. My wife is actually disabled and waiting on Indiana to get up to speed instead of dragging her feet on her hearing. But in the meantime, she works part-time, and I also have income. And we've been trying to find somebody to work with us in this city since we've moved back to Indiana from Alaska. My wife's originally from Carroll County, Lafayette, Delphi. We've been trying to find a house to rent, but everybody ostracizes us about my income, saying they don't have to work with me. And I know that's income discrimination.
Well,
I'm just trying to find someone that's willing to.
If it's a tax credit property, we have.
No, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be Section 8.
Well, no, it's different.
Right.
Tax credit and Section 8 are different.
All right. I mean, we do have low income. We both fall under the federal poverty line, unfortunately.
Now,
but
for
we're
the
stuck.
the home that I have available, it is falling under the tax credit laws. But this particular home has an 80% income limit. So it would be for you and your wife?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So your income could not exceed $49,400.
It doesn't. Nowhere near close.
Okay. And then your income would need to be at least 2 times the monthly rent.
Ma'am, actually, that's income discrimination. I was just talking to HUD authorities, the Fair Housing Act people this morning. I can actually send you an email regarding these rights that are actually civil rights. And it can show unintentional or intentional discrimination because I am a protected class, and that actually requiring that type of income payment does go against our Housing Act laws. And that is known as that's known as income discrimination. And that's the thing about it. Whether you own an investment property or manage 200 units, it's more important for you and your team to understand and abide by applicable federal fair housing laws and anti-discrimination laws. But you're not promoting fair housing and run a compliant rental business because these laws under this, ma'am.
Hello, can I speak?
Well, you're telling me you may ostracize me because of my income, and we don't make two. Well, that's ma'am. Landlords, property managers, real estate brokers, home sellers, mortgage companies, and banks may not refuse to deal with your treatment. She's telling me something where she's not understanding it.
Thanks for calling Fountain Square Properties. This is Arlena. Can I help?
Yes, ma'am. As a disabled person, I don't appreciate being hung up on. My calls are documented, ma'am. You're trying to justify income discrimination.
Sir, if
that's
you won't let
income.
Me speak,
no, it's
if
illegal.
You won't let me speak,
well.
Then there's nothing we have to. I can't speak.
Ma'am, you're creating a problem with my disability, and if you want to get technical, I'll let my wife explain it. And I can also get the chief of police of IMPD's office to explain that this disability and this exacerbation you're causing is actually causing a protracted loss or impairment to my brain, and it is causing harm to me. And under Indiana law, that's aggravated battery. So you're attacking me and being rude to me while I'm basically having a seizure, and you think I'm being the rude person here because I know my rights and what you can and can't do when for housing. Now, this is a problem we've been facing for 2 years, ma'am. I can't help that my disability is affected when I'm having to deal with housing situations like this and income discrimination and requirements. That's an attack on my rights to life, and it's also prohibited under the Fair Housing Act laws, ma'am. So I'm trying to figure out, because I have a case being built. I have attorneys getting involved, not saying against you, but against many companies just like yours that say they can require disabled Americans to make that when that's income discrimination, and that's an outright denial of human rights and disability rights, which are constitutionally valid. So I'm trying to figure out how your company gives you authority to amend federal protections and laws, which are supreme over state, and how disabled people are not allowed housing in the city because of this very inconvenience. Because I do know that does show intentional and unintentional discrimination. Either way you sum it up. That's how HUD looks at it. That's how the Department of Urban Housing and Development looks at it. That's HUD. That's how the Fair Housing Act laws show it. And these apply to disabled people, not even HUD applicable to disabled Americans. That's all. Your NC is also covered under Title III, where you must make reasonable modifications to your policies to ensure that we're at least able to rent. Federal Housing Act laws only require me to pay what you're asking in rent. I don't have to provide any further proof of income other than, yes, I can pay the bills. Yes, I can pay the rent. Oh, I'm living in a hotel right now, and that's what we're having to do for 2 years, and I'm paying over $1,000 a month. I'm in debt because of this. I'm trying to find something where it would be more affordable for us, but this is the inconveniences we're facing and why I'm bringing up things on a federal level in higher courts to address inhumane treatment to disabled people and income discrimination. So it is an appalling fact here, ma'am. I can't help I know what I know, but when somebody's creating seizures and telling me I'm being rude, knowingly or unknowingly, that's showing I'm having irrational behavior for my disability and how I was just accosted. I can't help that fact, but I've lived with it since I was 2 years old. And I mean, you can't sit there and discriminate because you have a preference for limitations in a rental advertisement, such as 3 times the rent or no disability service animals, or you create different terms or standards for tenants. And this even applies to prospective tenants, ma'am, as well, not just tenants. I mean, I'm very well versed and very well knowledgeable about my rights to access housing. I talk to people high up in HUD and in different departments about these things to make sure I'm correct. They're the ones who give me the laws and the information. So you can't tell me, oh, I can do this and then get rude and hang up the phone on me, because that shows you've retaliated for me exercising my rights, which is prohibited under other federal regulations. You've interfered with the service and refused the service based on my income and income discrimination, and then accosted me for my disability. I mean, that's what I know. Yeah, my wife knows it as well. Other people in the city would affirm that, because they're cognizant of these laws and things. So I'm just trying to find housing for my family, ma'am. I mean, if that's a crime and you have a right to tell me, if I don't make this, you don't have to work with me, well, that shows you're being unaccommodating, because not making 2 times the rent doesn't create a financial burden if I'm able to pay your asking amount in rent, nor may you jack up the rent or the deposit because of this. I mean, I can show you everywhere in the law where I'm correct, in Federal Fair Housing Act laws, the Americans with Disabilities Act, etc. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, which is also the Americans with Disabilities Act on a federal level when it comes to housing. So I'm just trying to figure out how you get to say no. How are you allowed to say no to disabled people? And because of that, because many disabled Americans don't make 2 or 3 times the amount of income.
Yeah. Can I speak now, sir?
Well, I mean, all my calls are recorded, ma'am, so speak away, please. I'm actually dealing with the Civil Rights Commission, and this matter is soon to be addressed. And I'm just taking a list of everybody that's made the same derogatory statements and discriminatory actions as my family has had to incur, where we're being denied our rights to life in the pursuit of happiness in a home. So, I mean...
Hello, can I speak now, sir?
Well, the only way you can deny me a service, ma'am, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, displaced to private and nonprofit, is if I'm creating a financial burden by paying the asked rent. That's not creating no burden. Or I'm interfering with the services you're offering, which means which I'm not. I'm trying to rent a house. That's the only requirements and reasons why you can deny me. It can't be because I don't make 2 times the amount. You're treating me like I'm a bum or something. You know, I'm paying $1,000 a month or more for a tiny little room in a hotel, ma'am, and have been for nearly 3 years by myself without my wife's income on disability. I'm the one making sure we have food. I'm doing all of that. So you're going to tell me I need to make 2 times the amount just to live in one of your properties? That's ostracizing disabled people now. Ma'am. So please speak all you want. I'm just, you know, and all that I can show from these hotel owners, hotel managers that we're clean people, we're quiet, and we pay on time, and we haven't ever been late. So that's about all I can show for rental history, because we're not allowed to have a rental history in the city because of this income discrimination and unequal treatment.
Here, are you going to allow me to speak, or else I?
Well, here. So now you're giving me ultimatums and using coercion. Ma'am, I don't appreciate coercive tactics, so please go ahead. Sorry if you're attacking me for a seizure you basically created. I'm going to be contacting the police and filing a report if you continue to abuse me, ma'am. You've already caused me to have a protracted loss or impairment because of my disability, which is a form of a seizure, and it does cause physical harm to me. So if you want to continue to abuse me, ma'am, I am disabled, and you're not going to talk to me that way. You're not going to deny my rights. I'm a human being. If you wish to further accost me, make threats of coercion to justify and vindicate you refusing me a service, ma'am, I'll let you know I will file a report, because you're creating an inconvenience for a disabled person where you are actually causing harm. So,
sir, all I wanted to say is that if you would get in contact with Indiana Housing Authority, they will base your rent on.
I've already did that, ma'am. Ma'am, I've been here in the city 2 years, and guess what? They put no, ma'am. Don't try to send me on a goose chase. You think you're doing something favorable. That doesn't justify you, ma'am. That does not justify.